My family told me not to come to the wedding because I'd make things awkward. They said, "Let your sister have her special day," so I stayed home. That same night, I turned on the news. Her groom had hit her in front of everyone at the reception. You know that gut-wrenching feeling when your entire world is turned upside down in an instant? Mine shattered into a million pieces the day I learned, not from my family, but from a social media post, that I'd been completely cut out of my own sister's wedding. But that, my friends, was just the beginning of the lies. I remember it vividly. I just collapsed into my favorite leather armchair, kicking off my work boots after a brutal day restoring the old Buchanan house. Rotted floorboards crumbling. Plaster, 100-year-old staircase that fought me with every splinter. My muscles ached, but it was that good kind of ache, the one that tells you you've earned your glass of Cabernet. The phone buzzed on the coffee table. I ignored it, letting the burgundy liquid catch the last golden rays of sunset through my craftsman windows. Then it buzzed again. And again. I sighed, took a long sip, and finally reached for it. Another dozen emails from contractors, a few client updates. Then I saw it. My thumb froze mid-scroll. A photo of my sister, Nyla, draped in white satin, her face glowing beneath a delicate veil. The caption hit me like a punch to the gut. Final fitting for the big day. Nyla and Travis. Forever after. My breath hitched. Wedding? What wedding? I swiped frantically through my feed, and a flood of images assaulted my screen. My cousin Marissa, showcasing bridesmaid dresses. My Aunt Rosa, arranging flower samples. My mother's hands holding embossed invitation samples. An invitation I had never, ever received. I clicked on the latest image. Comments cascaded beneath it. Can't wait to celebrate with you next month. The venue looks stunning. So blessed to be part of your special day. 57 comments. Names of relatives, friends, distant cousins I hadn't seen since high school. Everyone was going. Everyone but me. My phone rang, making me jump. My mother's name flashed on the screen, Cynthia Alvarez. Perfect timing. I answered, pressing the phone to my ear. Mom. Deborah, honey. Her voice was measured, almost too careful. I was just thinking about you. How's work? My free hand curled into a fist. Work is fine. I just saw Nyla's wedding dress on Instagram. The silence stretched, 3 agonizing heartbeats. Oh. She cleared her throat. I was going to call you about that. My knuckles whitened around the phone. My own sister's wedding? Was my invitation lost? Deborah. Her tone shifted, that familiar note of disapproval slipping in. Don't make this about you. You know how sensitive Nyla is. Sensitive? What does that have to do with? You're always so busy with your career. Nyla felt you wouldn't make time anyway. The room suddenly felt colder, as if all the warmth had been sucked out. I stood, moving to the window, watching the Denver skyline glitter in the distance. So you all just decided not to invite me to my sister's wedding? Travis thinks family is important, she said, as if that explained everything. And I'm not family? The words scraped my throat. Of course you are. But you know how things have been. After you criticized her cafe. Criticized her cafe? I co-signed her loan. $22,000 that I paid back. After she abandoned the business less than a year later. She had the children to think about. My mother's voice hardened. Single motherhood isn't easy, Deborah. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass. Old memories surfaced. Nyla at 10 breaking Grandma's vase. Me taking the blame. Nyla at 17 sneaking out. Me covering for her. Me at 16 announcing my engineering scholarship. Mom's dismissive. Of course you got it, you're the responsible one. The responsible one. Always. I haven't been forgotten, Mom, I whispered to the empty room. I've been erased. Now you're being dramatic. She sighed, a sound of a woman burdened by an unreasonable child. We can talk about this later. I need to go help Nyla with the seating charts. The call ended. I stared at my phone. New wedding posts were already appearing. Nyla twirling in her dress. Travis and his groomsmen sampling cakes. My parents beaming beside the happy couple. A family portrait without me. My phone buzzed with texts. Jenna, did you see? Call me. Marcus from work. Just saw. Your sister's wedding stuff. What the hell? Mrs. Henderson next door. Dear, are you aware of what's happening with your family? Even the people on the periphery of my life noticed my exclusion. I sank back into my chair, the weight of 35 years pressing down on me. I've built my career restoring historical treasures, bringing beauty back to forgotten places. But I couldn't restore my place in this family. The realization washed over me like cold water. All these years, I'd been the fixer, the responsible one, the steady hand. I'd co-signed loans, babysat on demand, listened to midnight breakdowns. I'd shown up when no one else would, and this was my reward. Erasure. My phone buzzed again. I silenced it without looking, setting it face down. From my window I could see the mountains west of Denver, their peaks burnished copper in the fading light. Beyond them lay Boulder, where my parents still lived in the Victorian house where we grew up. Where Nyla returned with her 2 children after Eric left her. Where they were planning a wedding. Without me, something shifted inside my chest. Not the hot flush of anger or the sting of hurt, but something cooler, more deliberate. A quiet certainty. This time, I whispered to the empty room. I won't fix what they've broken. I picked up my phone and opened Instagram again. With methodical precision, I unfollowed my sister, then my mother, my father, my cousins. Each tap of my finger felt like setting down a burden I'd carried too long. This wasn't an act of revenge. It was a decision. A boundary. The last golden light faded from my windows, plunging my living room into shadow. I didn't move to turn on lamps. Instead, I sat in the gathering darkness, feeling lighter than I had in years. For the first time in my life, I wasn't rushing to mend the family's broken pieces. And the silence that followed felt like freedom. My tires crunched over the gravel driveway of my parents' Victorian home in Boulder. The morning sun glinted off the stained glass above the front door, casting fragments of ruby and amber across the porch. The house stood proud against the mountain backdrop, its gingerbread trim, and sweeping eaves familiar as my own reflection. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles blanched white. 3 days since discovering Nyla's wedding plans, 3 days of ignored calls. From everyone except Mom, whose voicemails grew increasingly dramatic. Dad's hunched figure appeared in the garage doorway. Hector Alvarez, perpetually hiding behind projects. Today, it was his 1967 Mustang, the one he'd been restoring since I was in high school. He straightened when he spotted my car, wiping grease from his hands onto a rag that had seen better days. His eyes darted toward the house, then back to me. He didn't wave. I killed the engine and stepped out into the June heat. Dad. Debbie. He nodded, retreating deeper into the garage. Your mother's inside. Of course she is. And of course, he wouldn't stand beside her for this conversation. Some things never change. The screen door creaked as I entered. The house smelled of cinnamon and coffee, Mom's version of emotional armor. She appeared in the kitchen doorway, face arranged in careful concern. Deborah, I was just about to call you. Coffee? I made your favorite coffee cake. I don't want coffee. I remained standing in the entryway, hands in my pockets. I want to know why I wasn't invited to Nyla's wedding. Mom's smile faltered, then reformed. Oh, honey, it's complicated. You've been so busy with your career. Don't. The words sliced through her excuse. That's not a reason. She busied herself with the coffee pot, buying seconds. Nyla was afraid you might not approve of Travis. You can be intimidating. Intimidating? Because I asked questions when she introduced him after 3 weeks of dating? He thinks family is important, Deborah. She set 2 mugs on the counter with trembling hands. And you've always been so independent. The garage door opened. Dad shuffled in, eyes fixed on the hardwood floor. Don't make things harder than they already are, he muttered. Harder for whom? I asked, heat rising in my chest. For Nyla? For Travis? For you too? Who's always made excuses for her? Mom's eyes welled with practiced tears. That's not fair. Fair. The word exploded from me. Was it fair when I co-signed that business loan for her? Cafe? $22,000, Mom. That's what I paid back after she abandoned it 9 months later. She had the children to think about, Dad interjected, finally meeting my gaze. After Eric left. Eric left 4 years ago. The cafe fiasco was last year. I stepped closer to them both. I've been making those payments while she posts vacation photos from Sedona. Single motherhood isn't easy, Mom whispered. And Travis is her second chance. Dad's voice strengthened with this familiar defense. He has a good job in pharmaceutical sales. He can provide stability. So, she found her meal ticket. And now I'm embarrassing. The pieces clicked into a sickening place. Did Travis say he doesn't want me there? Their silence confirmed it. He thinks I don't care about my family. I laughed, a harsh sound against the homey kitchen. Backdrop. That's rich. Coming from a man who's known her for 7 months. Please understand. Mom reached for my arm. This wedding means everything to her. After the cafe. After Eric abandoned her with the children. Emma and Lucas deserve stability. Dad added. Always the children as shields. 8-year-old Emma and 6-year-old Lucas wheeled out as justification for every bad decision Nyla made. And what about me? I asked quietly. What do I deserve after paying her debts? After babysitting every weekend she had a date? After listening to her cry about Eric at 2 in the morning for months? You're stronger, Mom said. As if it was a compliment. You've always been the responsible one. The responsible one. The family ATM. The free therapist. The emergency babysitter. Never the sister worth including. I turned toward the door, suddenly exhausted. The weight of their expectations. Their manipulations. It felt heavier than the timber beams I'd installed in the Buchanan house yesterday. Deborah. Please. Mom followed me. We're family. Family. I paused at the door. Is that what we are? Dad stepped forward. Where are you going? Away from here, I said simply. If Nyla wants a perfect wedding, she can have it without me. I left them standing in the doorway, faces painted with confusion. As if they couldn't comprehend that this time, I wouldn't absorb the blow. 20 minutes later, I slid into a booth at Copper Kettle, the coffee shop where Jenna worked. She spotted me and brought over a latte without asking, sliding into the seat opposite me. That bad, huh? Jenna had known me since college. She recognized the aftermath of family confrontation on my face. Worse. I wrapped my hands around the warm mug. Travis doesn't think I care about family. That's why I wasn't invited. Travis. She snorted. The guy who's known your sister for 5 minutes thinks he gets to decide who cares about family. Apparently. Jenna glanced around, then pulled out her phone. Speaking of Travis. She slid it across the table. Kelly took these last night at Downtown Lounge. The photos showed Travis, arm wrapped around a blonde woman who definitely wasn't my sister. They were laughing, heads close together. In the last image, his lips pressed against her neck. My stomach tightened, not with surprise, but with bitter confirmation. When was this taken? Last night. Around 11. I pushed the phone back toward her. And what am I supposed to do with this information? Jenna blinked. Tell your sister? Tell your parents? Stop the wedding before she marries a cheater. The old me would have done exactly that. Would have rushed to protect Nyla from herself. Would have absorbed her rage when she inevitably shot the messenger. No, the word felt foreign, but right. I'm not doing that. Deborah, you have to. This time, I'll let the truth expose itself. I sipped my cooling latte. I'm not invited to the wedding, remember? It's not my place to interfere. Jenna studied me across the table. This isn't you. Maybe it should be. The realization settled in my chest, not with guilt, but with certainty. I'd spent my life fixing Nyla's messes. Look where that's gotten me. Excluded from her wedding, Jenna conceded. Exactly. I straightened my shoulders. So let Travis be Travis. Let Nyla make her choices. I'm done being the family safety net. And if she marries him, then she marries him. The words should have hurt more than they did. I can't rescue someone who doesn't want to be saved. For the first time in my life, I didn't rush to prevent a disaster. Heading toward my family, the discomfort of inaction sat heavy in my stomach. But beneath it ran a current of something unfamiliar. Relief. I poured myself another glass of Cabernet and settled into my window seat, the Denver skyline glittering against the night. My phone sat face down on the coffee table, deliberately silent. 3 weeks had passed since I discovered my exclusion from Nyla's wedding. And today was the big day at the Ridgewood estate. The Ridgewood. Even the name dripped with old money and exclusivity. According to Jenna's intel, Mom had spent weeks arranging white roses and gold accents throughout the historic mansion. 150 guests. Local press covering the union of Travis Reed, prominent engineer, and my sister, the perpetual damsel. I took a slow sip, savoring the wine's complexity. For the 10th time today, I resisted the urge to check social media. What good would it do? Instead, I reached for my dog-eared copy of Restoration Ethics and Historical Architecture. Work always centered me. But my phone buzzed, rattling against the wood. Then again. And again. Something in the persistent rhythm set my teeth on edge. I set my book aside and picked up the phone. 27 notifications. All in the last 4 minutes. My thumb hovered over the screen. Part of me wanted to shut it off completely. Finish my wine in peace. But an old instinct, that responsible one reflex, made me swipe. A video filled my screen. Shaky footage from Ridgewood's grand ballroom. White roses. Everywhere, just as Jenna described. Guests in formal wear clustered against the walls. And in the center, Nyla and Travis. My sister's mascara streaked down her face. Her perfect white dress crushed in her fists as she screamed something unintelligible. Travis towered over her, his tuxedo jacket unbuttoned, I ask you. His face contorted with rage. You knew I was seeing someone, he shouted, his voice cracking through my phone's speaker. You set me up? Nyla lunged forward, shoving his chest. Everyone knew. You weren't exactly discreet. Then it happened. Travis's arm swung out, his open palm connecting with my sister's cheek. The crack echoed through the ballroom. Gasps erupted from the crowd. The camera shook violently as the person filming reacted. Oh my God, I whispered, fingers pressed against my lips. The video cut off. I frantically scrolled through messages, piecing together the aftermath. Jenna, Deborah. R. You seeing this? Marcus, holy SHT. Just saw the Reed Alvarez disaster on Instagram. Mrs. Henderson, dear, your family is on the news. Channel 9. I switched to the local news app. There it was. Already breaking. Society wedding ends in assault charges. The footage played again, this time from a different angle. I caught glimpses of my mother's horrified face in the background. My father attempting to rush forward before being restrained by 2 other men. The anchor's voice cut in. Police were called to the prestigious Ridgewood estate this evening after the groom, Travis Reed, allegedly assaulted bride Nyla Alvarez during what witnesses describe as a heated argument about infidelity allegations. I snapped the phone off, tossing it onto the cushion beside me. My pulse hammered in my throat. Part of me, a part I'm not proud of, felt a sick vindication. But it was quickly swallowed by genuine concern for Nyla. No matter our differences, watching my sister be struck on what should have been the happiest day of her life, it twisted my stomach. I drained my wine glass, refilled it, and waited for what I knew would come next. The phone rang at 11:47 p.m. My mother's name flashed on the screen. I let it ring 4 times, composing myself before answering. Mom. Sobbing erupted from the other end. Deborah. Her voice caught thin and reedy. Your sister's hurt. Please come. I closed my eyes, the words I'd said 1,000 times in my life poised on my tongue. I'll be right there. I'll fix it. I'll help. But something stopped me. the memory of scrolling through wedding photos I wasn't meant to see. The years of cleaning up Nyla's messes. The money I was still paying back. I wasn't invited, Mom, I said quietly. Showing up now would only make it worse. Silence stretched between us, so profound I could hear her breathing hitch. But she needs you, Cynthia finally whispered. She always needed you. No, I corrected her gently. She needed Travis. She needed security and status and a fairy tale wedding. What she needed from me was my absence. That's not fair, Deborah. I know. I swirled the wine in my glass, watching it catch the city lights. Neither was. Excluding me. More silence. I could almost see her face, the calculation behind her eyes, searching for the leverage that always worked before. The guilt. The family responsibility. The Deborah will fix. It's certainty. I'm sorry about what happened, I added, my voice softer. Truly, no one deserves that. But I'm not the solution this time. The line went dead without another word. I stared at the phone, feeling something fundamental shift inside me. For the first time in my life, I'd refused to rush into a family crisis. The absence of panic surprised me. I slept better that night than I had in years. The next evening, Jenna arrived with takeout from that Thai place on 17th Street. We ate at my kitchen island, the news muted on the television across the room, occasionally flashing footage from the wedding disaster. You holding up okay? Jenna asked, twirling noodles around her fork. It's wild stuff. Surprisingly well, I admitted, though the neighbors keep giving me these sympathetic looks. When I get the mail. Mrs. Henderson asked me if you needed anything when I was parking. I laughed. Of course she did. She brought me banana bread this morning. The universal language of crisis comfort. Jenna grinned, then grew serious. Your mom call? Yet? Last night. I didn't go. Jenna's eyebrows shot up. Seriously? That's new. Long overdue, I corrected her. After dinner, Marcus texted to check in. Another unusual development in my normally quiet life. My colleague had become a surprising source of perspective. He understood being the family black sheep. Saw more footage on the news. You okay? He wrote. Better than expected, I replied. Good. Some families only value you when they need something fixed. Trust me, I know. His words settled into me like the truth. I was still thinking about them when a knock sounded at my front door just after 9. Through the peephole, I saw my father, soaked from the sudden downpour, standing on my porch without an umbrella. Water streamed from his silver hair down his weathered face. He looked 10 years older than when I saw him last. Deborah, he called, voice barely audible through the door. Please, I need to talk to you. I leaned my forehead against the cool wood, feeling the vibration of his knocking against my skin. It's about the house, he added, desperation cracking in his voice. The bank is threatening foreclosure. My hand froze on the doorknob. Foreclosure? My parents had owned that Victorian home for 35 years. Part of me wanted to pretend I wasn't home, to let him stand in the rain and feel what abandonment tastes like. But his slumped shoulders and rain-soaked appearance pulled at something deep and ingrained. With a sigh, I turned the lock and opened the door. You have 10 minutes, I told him, stepping aside. And this better not be about Nyla. He stepped in, rainwater pooling at his feet, and shook his head. It's worse than that, he said, pulling a thick manila envelope from inside his jacket. Much worse. As I closed the door, behind him, a chill ran through me that had nothing to do with the rain. While he dried off, I filled the electric kettle. Some conversations required hot beverages. My hands trembled slightly as I pulled 2 mugs from the cabinet, anticipating whatever new family crisis he'd brought to my doorstep. When he emerged, he looked smaller somehow. Diminished. He clutched the manila envelope, wrinkled and damp at the edges. We've been using your money for something else, he said without preamble. The kettle whistled. I poured hot water over tea bags, buying myself time to process his words. What money? The monthly checks. For the house. For years ago, my parents had claimed they were struggling with their mortgage. I'd been sending $1,100 every month. Since then. For the mortgage, I said slowly. That's what you told me. Not exactly. He slid the envelope across my dining table. It was for a loan. A home equity. Line of credit. I opened the envelope, spreading the contents across the polished wood. Bank statements. Loan documents. Notices of pending foreclosure proceedings. My eyes caught the loan. Amount. $195,000. You took out a HELOC? He nodded, eyes fixed on his hands. For Nyla. After Eric left, the kids needed stability. I scanned the paperwork, blood turning cold as I spotted the co-signers, Cynthia Alvarez and Nyla. Alvarez. Dad, Nyla hasn't lived in that house for years. How could she co-sign? Your mother. He stopped, swallowed hard. She told the bank Nyla was living with us. Understanding crashed down. So the money I'd been sending was going toward the HELOC. Payments, not the original mortgage. I grabbed a calculator from my desk drawer, punching numbers. With trembling fingers. For years. 12 months. $1,100 each month. $82,000. My voice sounded distant, as if someone else was speaking. You've taken $82,000 from me under false pretenses. Deborah. Where did the money go? I demanded, slapping my palm against the table. A mug jumped, spilling tea across the statements. Neither of us moved to clean it up. Nyla's debts. The legal fees after Eric left. The down payment on her house. Travis had. Requirements about where they would live. I laughed. A harsh sound that surprised even me. Travis. The man who hit her at their wedding. That's who got my money. Dad didn't answer. Which was answer enough. I stood, moving to my office with mechanical precision. Returned with my phone and digital camera. Began photographing every document. What are you doing? He asked. Documenting fraud. Bank fraud, specifically. Falsifying residence information on a loan application. The camera shutter clicked with satisfying finality. You can't. I absolutely can. I continued photographing, hands steady now. And I will. It would destroy your mother. Nyla's kids. Don't. I held up one hand. Don't you dare put this on me. I'm not the one who lied. I'm not the one who stole. His face crumpled. We never meant. Yes, you did. I set the camera down, meeting his eyes directly. You meant every bit of it. You just never expected to get caught. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Bank contact info. Coming your way. My cousin's in mortgage fraud investigations. How much is left on the HELOC? I asked. About $70,000. Dad rubbed his face. The foreclosure notice came yesterday. They're calling the entire balance due. I resumed photographing, capturing every signature, every false statement. Dad watched in silence. The magnitude of what they'd done finally sinking in. Why no? I asked finally. Why tell me after all this time? Your mother thought we could refinance. But no bank will touch us after the wedding fiasco. Hit the news. He hesitated. And I couldn't live with it anymore. Not after you were excluded. From the wedding. Not after everything. My phone rang. I answered without checking the caller. ID, Jenna's voice filled the line. Heads up. The next day, I stood in the center of my living room, surveying my preparations with the meticulous eye I normally reserved for historic building inspections. The large oak dining table. A restoration project I'd salvaged from an 1880s farmhouse dominated the space. Its surface told a story of betrayal through carefully arranged papers, photographs, and bank statements. A knock at the door announced Aunt Rose's arrival. I'd chosen her carefully. Dad's sister. The only family member who never played favorites. You look tired, Mija, she said, stepping inside. Her silver-streaked hair framed concerned eyes. Not tired. Ready. I adjusted a stack of bank statements. Thank you for being here. She squeezed my hand. Family should tell the truth, not pretty lies. The doorbell rang again. My stomach clenched as I checked my watch. They were 15 minutes early. A power move. Classic Cynthia. I'll make coffee, Rosa offered, retreating to the kitchen. I opened the door to find them huddled on my porch. Mom's face wore a mask of injured dignity. Dad studied his shoes. Nyla stood slightly behind them, arms wrapped protectively around her middle. Come in. My voice sounded foreign to my ears, steady, unruffled. They filed past me like solemn funeral attendees. No one spoke as they settled around my dining table. Nyla gasped quietly when she noticed the papers. Dad's shoulders sagged further. Mom's lips pinched into a bloodless line. Aunt Rosa brought coffee, but nobody touched it. I remained standing. The silence stretched until Mom shifted in her chair. What is all this? Drama 4, Deborah, if you need help with your finances. Stop. The words sliced through her deflection. For once in your life, just stop talking and listen. I slid a document toward her. This is the home equity line of credit you took out for years ago. $195,000. With Nyla listed as co-signer, claiming she lived at the property. Dad's eyes closed briefly. This, I continued, pushing forward another document, is the rental agreement I signed when I moved out 12 years ago. The one that specifically forbids you from using my financial information or claiming I live there. I tapped a stack of bank statements. And these show the money transfers. $1,100 monthly from my account to yours. Totaling $82,000 over 4 years. Nyla's face drained of color. Mom? What is she talking about? Our mother told me the house needed repairs, I explained, never taking my eyes off Cynthia. A new roof. Foundation work. That she and Dad were struggling to keep up with expenses in retirement. She asked for help. I agreed to send what I could each month. My fingers trembled slightly as I laid out the photographs. These are pictures from the bank lobby security camera. Mom depositing my checks directly into the Helic payment account. Cynthia's chin lifted. I only did what I had to do to keep a roof over the kids' heads. You kept that roof with my money and my trust. The fury pulsed behind my eyes, yet my voice remained level. The same money I earned working 60-hour weeks while repaying Nyla's failed cafe loan. Nyla's mouth dropped open. Cafe loan? But you said that was a refinance. Your sister co-signed for your business, Aunt Rosa interjected quietly. When it failed, she paid back every penny. Dad finally spoke, voice rough with shame. Debbie, we never meant for it to go this far. Don't. I raised my hand. Intentions don't erase fraud. Fraud. Cynthia sputtered. We're family. Family doesn't steal from each other, I countered. Family doesn't forge signatures on loan documents. Nyla stared at the papers, hands shaking. I didn't know, Deborah. Mom just said it was a refinance. That you approved everything. I believed her. Nyla was always the golden child, but never the mastermind. Cynthia sniffed. Well, what do you want? To send your parents to jail? To make your sister homeless with 2 children? Dad's head snapped up. That's enough, Cynthia. The sharpness in his tone startled us all. In 40 years of marriage, I'd never heard him speak to her that way. Debbie has every right to be furious. His weathered hands spread flat on the table. If you want the house, we'll sign it. Over. The side lot can be sold to repay what we took. Cynthia fell silent, hands twisting in her lap. I looked at my father, really looked at him. The proud carpenter who taught me to restore instead of replace. To find value in damaged things. His eyes held a mixture of shame and relief. The weight of secrets finally lifting. I don't want your house, I said. I just want this to end. Aunt Rosa took a notebook from her purse. I've spoken with a friend at First American Title. We can do a quick claim deed for the side lot today. Transfer it directly to Deborah. We could sell it, Dad said. The Miller boy next door has been asking about it for years. To expand his garden. Fine. My mother's voice was clipped. I don't need an apology, I told them, surprised to discover it was true. I just need peace. The room fell quiet again, but the quality of silence had changed. No longer tense with unspoken accusations, but heavy with truth finally acknowledged. 2 weeks later, we met at a title company downtown. The attorney explained the documents. With professional detachment. Dad signed first, then Mom. The pen hovered in her hand for a moment before she scrawled her name. I didn't make speeches about forgiveness. I didn't hurl accusations. I simply signed where indicated and accepted copies of the paperwork. As we stood to leave, Dad touched my arm. I'm sorry, Debbie, his voice caught for everything. I nodded. Once, unable to find words that wouldn't crack open my carefully maintained composure. Outside on the sidewalk, Nyla approached hesitantly. I'll pay you back, she promised. Every cent. Take care of your kids, I told her. Stand on your own feet. She nodded, tears spilling. I will. I drove home alone, windows down, autumn air whipping through the car. My phone rang, Jenna. Checking in. It's done, I told her. How do you feel? I considered the question. The anger still burned, but differently now. Not the hot flash of betrayal, but something controlled, useful. The kind of fire that forges rather than destroys. Like I finally stopped carrying other people's weight. 3 days later, a certified check arrived from the sale of the side lot. I studied the numbers, calculating what it would and wouldn't cover, what I'd lost. Not everything. Not nearly enough. But as I folded the check into my wallet, I realized I'd gained something worth more. The power of truth. The strength of boundaries. The freedom of no longer being responsible for everyone else's happiness. For the first time in 35 years, the only life I had to fix was my own. Morning light spills across my kitchen counter in the gun barrel home I've restored over the past year. The 3-bedroom ranch house sits on a corner lot with a view of the Flatirons. That still takes my breath away. I trace my finger along the freshly sanded oak countertop, remembering the splinters that once made it dangerous to touch. My phone vibrates against the granite island. I glance down, expecting another message from Balance Forward about tomorrow's financial abuse workshop. Instead, Nyla's name appears on my screen. Thank you for letting me make things right. The kids miss you. I set down my coffee mug, feeling neither the sharp sting of anger nor the heavy weight of obligation that once accompanied her name. Just calm awareness. Through mutual friends, I've heard snippets of Nyla's new life. 3 jobs, no handouts. Standing on her own feet for perhaps the first time since high school. Emma walks herself to school now. Lucas joined Little League. Without anyone forcing him. I type my response carefully. I'm free Saturday afternoon if you'd like to bring them by. Her reply comes instantly. Just me first. We need to talk. I added a condition without apology. 2 o'clock. I have plans at 4. The boundaries. Felt natural now, not selfish. Saturday arrives with a gentle rain that patters against the living room windows. When Nyla's compact sedan pulls into the driveway, I notice the missing hubcap, the small dent in the passenger door. No more luxury cars purchased with other people's credit. She stands on my porch, clutching a small wooden box, her knuckles white. Rain droplets cling to her hair, which hangs straight and uncolored for the first time since she was 12. You look different, I say, stepping aside to let her in. 3 jobs will do that. She attempts a smile, but her voice lacks the practice charm she once wielded like a weapon. No time for highlights when you're cleaning office buildings at night. I lead her to the kitchen where 2 mugs of tea steam on the island. No wine. No illusions. Of false intimacy. This is for you. She places the wooden box between us. Dad found it when they were clearing out the Victorian. I lift the hinged lid. Inside rests our grandfather's pocket watch, its gold case tarnished with age. The one meaningful heirloom neither of us received when he died. The one thing I'd wanted. How did you know? I ask, lifting it carefully. You mentioned it once, when we were teenagers. She watches as I wind it gently. The mechanism clicks, then begins to tick with surprising strength for something so long forgotten. Maybe time doesn't erase mistakes, I say, but it teaches you when to stop repeating them. We sit in silence as rain taps against the windows. Not uncomfortable. Not forced. Just 2. Adults acknowledging truths too long buried. What did you do with the money? She finally asks. From the land sale? I meet her gaze directly. I didn't keep it, Mom said. I opened accounts for Emma and Lucas. College funds. Her eyes widened. After everything we did? After. I'm done rescuing adults, I say, feeling the rightness of these words. But kids? They still deserve a chance. When she leaves an hour later, we don't hug. We don't make promises about holiday gatherings or shared vacations. But something has shifted. Like a bone finally set properly after years of painful misalignment. That evening, I sat alone on my porch swing, watching the sunset paint the mountains gold. My journal rests open on my lap. Today's entry, simple but complete. The softest revenge is peace. And quiet. No bitterness curls through my chest as I write these words. No burning need to make things even. Just calm certainty that I've found my way back to myself. In that stillness, I finally feel free.